Hello, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on another of my marvellous interviews. Today I'm talking to a man who I've met very briefly. I've seen some of his videos, and I even have his book, which is signed by his very good self, God Wins. And in the situation that we're in at the moment, let's jolly well hope that God is going to win, or at least guide us to get off our backsides and do something about it, which I think is what Mark is all about. My guest today is Mark Attwood. Hello, Mark.
Hello, Mr. Vobes. How are you?
I'm very well. I've been looking at your website in which it says, I just want to say this to set up the interview for the people who may not know you. And the thing is, I don't know too much about you myself. So it says I'm a lifelong spiritual truth seeker, entrepreneur, author, free sovereign human that was born in the 1960s. I was in the late 1960s. I was born in the early 1960s. You resigned from the RAF, it says here. You've had a colourful life. Now, what got me is that you were a theatre company actor, producer, director, writer. You've been a stand-up comic. I mean, all these sort of wonderful skills. And I've sort of dabbled in theatre, and I went to mime school, of all the most ridiculous things that people
I can
do.
see you doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there we are. Look,
Yeah.
look at that. See, and
Yeah.
and when I do my now that people are asking me to talk, and I think, hang on, I know nothing about any of this. I always resort to a little bit of mime at the beginning to relax the audience and get them to laugh, which is quite fun. And then I gauge whether they actually want me to talk thereafter, because if I'm doing mime, I'm nice and
Well, actually,
quiet.
you and me are talking at an event in Leeds together in a few weeks.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's right. The People's Health Alliance. I'm emceeing, I think. Well, I know I am. I've had some conversations with lovely Catherine McBean.
She just rang.
Oh, did she? There we go. We have a shared thing. So if anyone's not doing anything on what date is it? It's in the diary. I can't remember now.
The
But
19th.
it's towards it, something like that. And in Leeds.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. No, sorry, 29th, and I'm the auctioneer, apparently.
You are. That's right. I remember seeing it and I've got to bring you on. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have this chance to have a chat.
Yeah.
And you're into health. You've recently got something rather nasty, which we were going to do an interview of a week or so earlier, but you suddenly said, "I'm not very well."
I wasn't very well. I was very, very poorly. But it was an emotional release thing. I went to this wellness center. You know, everything I do is like intuitive. And somebody bought my book, and I saw the email address that said Rinine Wellness, and I was like, all right, I'm going there because I've been absolutely hammered for 3 years and not stopped. So it was an amazing opportunity to go and rest for a few days. And I'm father of 5 kids as well, and I've been doing this full time for 3 years now. I can't believe it's 3 years. And the woman there, she did an incredible emotional release thing on me, and my body just collapsed literally the night before we were supposed to be talking, and I had 3 days shivering under 5 duvets, processing all this stuff. So I do apologize for wasting an hour of your life.
No, not at all. So just tell me what that is then, an emotional release. How does that work?
Well, her name's Julie Reed, and her and her son do this thing called the body code, because the body can't lie. So, a lot of people know this.
I've got a book called The Body Code.
Yeah, it might be the same thing, but basically,
Yeah.
She digs into, ask the body what needs to be released, basically. And my body went, okay, let's go deep. And it went right back to my mother's first trimester with me, when people around her tried to make her have an abortion. And that trauma I've been carrying for 54 years, unbeknown to me. And when you release something that heavy, it's pretty traumatic.
Wow.
But
So I have seen these videos in which people have said exactly that, and you're sort of looking at going, oh, this is really a thing. And of course, in this journey that I've been doing for the last 10 months, in which I've been interviewing people, and I've just had this policy that everything's on the table, nothing is to be dismissed. So when I've seen those things, I thought, and they run magnets or things up people's backs, and they said, I'm releasing it now. And you think, it's such a leap, isn't it, from the very narrow medical profession that we're all thinking this is the scientific and most proven way of doing things, and actually that's actually been more harmful than anything else.
Well, if we haven't learnt that after the last 3 years, what have we learned? By the
Well,
way, I've got to do a shout out to Porrick, Mary, and Jimmy because they're massive Richard Vobes fans, and I didn't tell them I was going to do this, but they'll like that. Hi guys.
oh, fantastic. Well, let's hope they're watching this one.
Yeah, well, they will definitely.
Oh, brilliant. Well, hello to you three. What were their names? Go on, do it one more time.
Porrick, as in Padrick. It's spelt Padraig, but it's an Irish name. It's Porrick, Mary, and Jimmy.
Fantastic.
So
I've heard.
I'm in the west of Ireland, and I meet them in the cafe once every couple of weeks, and they're really nice people.
Ah, and they're my fans. I've got a chap who's desperate to get me over to Ireland.
Oh, you
to,
come. You're welcome.
to do a tour, and I've sort of I thought it's like fitting everything in and knowing when's the best time. Now I don't have a passport, so my initial thing was, do I need a passport? Because I don't have one. When it came up for renewal, I thought I don't want another EU one. Thank you very much. I'll have a blue British one, which I could now get.
Yeah. Well, you get the ferry from
Yeah.
Belfast, Liverpool to Belfast, and then you just drive down. Nobody.
Oh right. Oh okay. Nice and easy. So and well, I shall do that. I shall talk to this chap and see where what he's got in plan for me. So what's the mood in Ireland? Because I've had other messages from people saying we're in Ireland, we don't like it now. We're trying to move to the mainland. Could you recommend anything?
Well, it's interesting because one of the reasons I left the UK in 2014 is because I was fed up of how communistic it was becoming, and and all the bloody CCTV everywhere, and I knew what was coming as well, and I moved to Marrakesh for 4 years, but then I moved to Ireland, and Ireland's an amazing, beautiful, deeply spiritual place. In fact, it's fascinating, and this particular town I am in was the headquarters of the UFO Society of Ireland for 20 odd years, and is known as the Roswell of Ireland because the mountains I can see out my window right here, there was a famous UFO crash there in 1996. It's been pulling me in for 28 years since I cast a girl in a play at the Library Theatre in Manchester 28 years ago, who's the daughter of a famous singer from this town. And then she introduced me to my wife, and then I had 5 kids, and their parents moved here, and then we ended up moving here. And that's it's quite a funny story. And I didn't know that I had any Irish in me until I was about 20, because there was so much shame around my grandmother being Irish that nobody in the family would talk about it. So I've got this kind of really interesting links in this place. And when COVID hit, it hit me why I was here, and what I've learnt over the last 3 years on the spiritual journey aspects of this whole experience is that lots and lots of people that have been placed around, I won't say around the globe because I'm not sure, but around this realm in different spots as points of light. And we formed a grid of light throughout the last 3 years that has assisted in the ascension that we're going through, because I think that's what we're actually experiencing right now. I don't know if that answer. I don't even know if you asked the question. I don't know what.
No, I was just to say what is it like in Ireland? But the conversation is that it bounces about, doesn't it? And you just go off, and I think that's one of the enjoyable things.
Well, I can be specific about that. It's a wonderful place full of wonderful people,
Right.
but it's run by well, I don't think they're actually the real people, but on the surface, it's run by a lot of communists, basically, which is horrific in many, many ways, but it's working. And it's a controversial viewpoint that I have, and because I'm an apocalyptimist, okay? And the apocalypse it just means great unveiling in Greek, and optimist, obviously most people know what that is, and I'm an optimist about the great awakening that we're going through. Some people think it's the Great Reset. I think it's the Great Awakening, and it's all part of God's plan, and it's working. Whatever they're doing is actually waking people up and getting people out in the streets and making people actually go, what is going on?
Well, that does definitely seem to be the thing. And if you were planning the situation you were in from, say, a bad guy's cabal situation where you've got Dr. Evil sitting around his oval table with all his minions there, in actual fact, it's either, if you were planning it, you probably wouldn't want to have done what they have done, because people are indeed coming out going, hang on a second.
Yeah.
This is a bit weird, isn't it? And those that are susceptible are waking up much faster than perhaps they ordinarily would have done.
One of the hardest things that I've found in the last 3 years since I started my YouTube channel, which I got told to do, literally by my higher self.
I've read that. I'm going to ask you about that in a minute.
Yeah, and I used to be embarrassed about saying that out loud, but it's true. I literally couldn't not do it. Um, is that I've tried to make I've tried to make fun and jokes throughout the whole of the last 3 years, and that's quite difficult sometimes when you're actually literally seeing people dropping dead. That's the really hard. But for me, it's really about the children. I mean, people need to understand that the reason this spiritual war is happening, and the worst part of it is the part that people just don't seem to know about, and that is that 22,000 children, and these are official figures, 22,000 children every single day since the Second World War. That's a billion children. That's what we know about.
Sorry, say that again. 22,000 disappear every day.
Yes, because
Or
because adrenochrome is the biggest industry on the planet. And that's the thing. I mean, I don't want to say anything that's going to get your channel taken down. But
no, please don't. I've just come back from my YouTube sabbatical, and I've got a lot of work to do, and it would be nice to have a platform to do it on, in which the sort of great unwashed are still, the people who are slowly waking up.
It's very hard to get them off YouTube and over to Rumble and stuff like that.
Oh, isn't it?
It's really hard. People are very, habitual.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even if you, and I mean, I have to say, I'm a bit the same. You'll see a YouTube video that says, hey, this video is going to be in depth and it'll blow your mind. All you have to do is press this link. And you just go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's on other channels? Yeah. It's like, it is really difficult. But we do our best. So go back to why you set your channel up, because we will mention, here it is, your book, because I like your book because it's in your face, and once you open it, you can't help but want to see what outrageous thing you say on the next page and the next page. But it kind of it does have this positive message, but it's also hitting a punch. But I read there, or on your thing, that you have, God tells you these things.
Yeah, it makes me sound completely nuts when you put it like that, but it's true.
I'm sure you are nuts. I'm sure I'm nuts, and
Well,
I think you have to be nuts to see
what
it.
I love about watching you is you always look like you're on the verge of laughing, and that's what cracks me up about watching you. You're the best broadcaster in the UK, as far as I'm concerned. But how do you explain this? So I started waking up 30 odd years ago. When I was in the RAF, I was a trainee pilot, and I met Prince Philip, and he didn't recognise my uniform. And I was at St James's Palace. I was getting the Gold Duke of Edinburgh's aboard a couple of years late because my dad had died. It's a long story, but I was there in my uniform anyway. And he shook my hand and he went, "I see you've joined the." And then somebody had to go, "Oh, that boss." And I looked at him like, "What? You're the boss? How do you not recognise this uniform?" And I thought that was very, very strange. At the same time that happened, I was based in Germany for a bit, and the Daily Telegraph carried a headline that I knew was a lie, and I was like, oh my God, the government lying to people. And I ended up working at the Daily Telegraph a couple of years later, weirdly, and then I saw how I went drinking with the journalists, and I learned how they actually. So God's put me in all these weird positions throughout my life and given me all these. You listed off some of the things I've done. I'm not saying I'm any good at any of them, but I got exposed to lots of different things, and I saw lots of different things that all made sense when COVID came, because two of my friends also committed suicide in the Air Force, and that got covered up, and I didn't like that, and so I spent my whole life wanting to fly planes and get out of my village and join the Air Force, and Battle of Britain and all of that stuff inspired me as a kid. But then, and I was brokenhearted really when I had to leave, because I just knew I couldn't do it. I didn't want to kill anybody because I didn't believe in any of the wars. The wars just didn't make sense, and it wasn't about freedom anymore. It was about something else. And the boss obviously didn't. He'd probably just come up from the dungeon that day, snorting whatever he was snorting, and that's why he didn't recognise the uniform. But so I started waking up really in 1989, really, because my earliest memory as a kid was demons trying to recruit me in my bedroom during the miners' strike in '73, I think it was.
So these quite vivid,
very, very, very vivid, right? Memories that you kind of suppress as well. And they came out. I think I went on Charlie Ward's show in 2020. About 80,000 people saw me say demons is my earliest memory, and I finished that show going, "Oh God, I'm ruined. I can't believe I've just said that on the internet." But then I start getting all these emails from people saying, "Yeah, same thing happened to me actually. Yeah, I've never told anybody about this," and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." And this whole kind of spiritual side of it just sort of burst open. And I managed to stay on YouTube. I've had two big channels taken down, and I'm not there. I can't seem to get back on it. I can't get back on Facebook. PayPal closed me down. I just got closed down by everybody. But I continue at the markoutwoodshow.com, which is where you can get the book if anybody's interested. But also I'm on Rumble and Telegram and Twitter, funnily enough, came back to life in January. I got told again, go and make this video. I was in Birmingham with a hangover after my mum's birthday, celebrating my mum's birthday. And I was heading back to Ireland, and I got this message saying, "But you need to make a video telling the people that fell for this, right, that were coerced into it, and single mums that didn't want to lose their jobs and that kind of thing, and tell them that you're here to help, all the people that didn't fall for it, because there was this horrible thing going on last year where blah blah people would start saying, "Well, I'm a pure blood," and blah blah blah. I was like, "Hang on."
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
No. That's the wrong way to go. We've got to be here together. Unity consciousness is what's coming through, and we need to be there. They're all brothers and sisters, for God's sake. We can't turn our backs on them. They were duped. So
no, exactly. I mean, it is. I suppose you could say it's like those that have fallen wounded once everyone's gone over the top. Those wounded in no man's land, you can't just sort of go, "Oh, let's forget about them."
Yeah, tough shit.
Just because they got hit by a bullet.
No, we're all in this.
We're all in the same.
We are, but what I'm saying is, Richard, I got told, make this video. It will get 1 million views, and it'll be really good because you're a bridge. And I was like, okay. And the bridge thing is something I learned from Dolores Cannon's work. Are you familiar with her stuff?
Yeah. I had her on the show until.
No, she's dead.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm thinking of Dolores. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got confused. Yeah, you're right. She's dead. But it would be nice to have Dolores Cannon on the show.
It would be good. I'd come on that show. Yeah. We'd do it as a seance.
Yeah.
But no, she talks about people in their 50s being, at the moment, like my age, your age or whatever, being bridges.
Right.
Between warriors and healers, and a lot of my stuff has flipped to. I mean, if you told me I'd run a healing center even 6 months ago, I'd have laughed at you. But that's exactly what I did. I opened the healing center 3 months ago here, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, and we've had 200 franchise inquiries. Would you believe?
Wow.
Which is very, very interesting because I think potentially this is a way of building, as Catherine McBean would say, building the new, because we can build decentralized, self-funded, donation-based healing centers using hyperbaric oxygen as the bridge to pull people in, because to heal everybody, because you can't argue with oxygen. You just can't. No. They can't argue with it. It's 350-year-old technology. So they've never been able to completely suppress it like they have with many other healing modalities, because they couldn't, because by the time the Rockefellers took over medicine, it had already been around 200 years. So it's very interesting.
They've done a good job with CO2, but oxygen, I think people would, even the dumbest person would go, "Sorry, I think oxygen is bad."
Yeah,
what?
It's very bad.
What? It's really bad.
Stop the oxygen!
No,
Stop the oxygen! The oxygen's killing everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why my book actually is.
Which one are we looking at?
Hang on. That's why the cover is based on Monty Python's Life of Brian.
Yes.
Because we live in Monty Python land. It's the People's Front of Judea. That's what it was like at that meeting we both met at. It was all really good, and then the second half they were all fighting about.
Yes.
What letters?
Got into semantics.
What are you going to call it? What colours? And it was like, oh my god.
I'd left by then actually.
Yes.
I had, because we had to go back for the children, Julia's children. So I had all these reports coming back to me, telling me the audience won't know what the hell we're talking about, but it was curious having enlightened people in one room, many of the names that one has heard of but never met, and then you were there, so. Lots of disagreement from people who are trying to say the same thing, and unity is key.
Well, which is
an irony.
It's just human behaviour.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's the
way we are. It's just hilarious. That's why I like Monty Python, because it's just.
So tell me.
Go on.
We've talked about. Tell me how God speaks to you, because one of the things I get a lot, and I dare say you do, and people in this movement must do, is from viewers, particularly if you're head above the parapet talking about stuff, is I get a lot of spiritual people who are talking about source, and I'm not talking about HP. And then a lot of people who are sending me, and I'm open to this, and I don't criticise any of it because everybody's got the point they're starting from. So just in case anyone watching is now thinking, hang on, he's going to slate us. I'm not. I get a lot of people telling me about revelation in the Bible.
Yep.
I've just had a handwritten letter from Australia from someone talking about Jehovah's Witnesses and how they have an answer, which actually, curiously, side note, started to think about the blood transfusion that Jehovah's don't like. And I thought, oh, actually, I'd never really given this a thought, especially in these days with certain things in the blood. And then, there's lots of people who... so there's lots of sort of people that scientists and quantum physics and that sort of thing. But ultimately, it all seems really, it all points actually back to the same thing, whatever you call it. So I'm just curious how you define your relationship with God.
Well, I was an atheist really for a long time. After my dad died, I had to turn my dad's life support machine off when I was 17.
Oh, that's not good.
Which I don't think they let you do now, because I had no choice, and I spent and I walked out the chapel of rest, going, I hate you. I couldn't understand how God could allow something that horrific to happen to a young kid, because I love my dad, but I had a very deep relationship with God when I was a kid, and I wasn't brought up in a religious family at all, but I talked to God all the time when I was a kid. And I'm a very powerful manifester as well. I mean, I manifested so many things. I didn't even know what manifesting was back then. But so I turned my back on God for a long time. But then this whole process started. All these weird things started happening about 12, 13 years ago. I was just starting to see numbers everywhere. People talk about this a lot. 1111 and all these weird. I just started noticing them. And I was like, what is this? What's going on? And then really weird synchronicities. I'd already started waking up, what terminology people want to use. I'd been given a copy of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion in 1999 in a curry house in Manchester by a Canadian stand-up called Alan Park. And I got invited to go and live in northern Canada in this hole where everybody was like in this dugout with guns and supplies for years because they knew what was coming, Right. So, but it was really underground. It was like this stuff was on the internet. It was very difficult to find back in '99, and but I was just drawn to this information. And then, of course, 9/11 happened, and my friend Jeff Campbell was in the towers and died, and his brother Matthew, I sat on his shoulder for 20 years as he was trying to investigate what was really going on, which led to me being invited to Guantanamo Bay in 2017, I think, 16. I didn't go, but it was my wife wouldn't let me. But it was just crazy stuff that was going on, and this awakening led me to do a lot of the things that a lot of spiritual people do, like going on ayahuasca retreats and peyote retreats and sound baths and breathing stuff like that. And I was the least spiritual person. Every time I turned up to one of these events, I'd be there with the big watch and the Jaguar, going, "What am I doing here? I've not got feathers sticking out my ass, so that I don't dress spiritually." And I always felt out of place, really. But there was a lot. I learned a lot from that as well. A lot of the New Age stuff is bollocks, and I think. What I've learned about myself in the last 3 years is I'm a working class boy from England, Northampton, right? There's no airs and graces about me, and I think that's kind of like why I've connected with so many people around the world. I toured America last year and met 10,000 people that all said amazing things to my face. And I did 2 sellout shows at Manchester Monastery in April and last October, and I've run a retreat in the Sahara Desert. I mean, it's just been a crackers couple of years.
Sorry, just say that again. You run a retreat in the Sahara.
I ran a retreat last year in the Sahara Desert, for 10 days.
You just have to explain that, because that immediately I just see sand, little hut.
Yeah.
Mark Attwood going out.
Luxury tents in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
sounds just that sounds incredible. And what do you
Well,
do
it
on a?
was.
Yeah, well, I'm sure. What goes on in a retreat like that?
Well, a friend of mine runs these camps in the Sahara because I used to live in Marrakesh. So, and you know, and she kept saying to me, "You got to run a retreat here," and I was like, "Okay, I'll put it up on the YouTube channel." And then 50 people came. It was like, it was mad actually because it was 50 women, one guy and 49 women and me, and they
So
all
is that
knew.
like a harem?
It was a little bit,
Have
yeah.
we? Have we?
They all knew me, but I didn't know them. It was
Yeah.
quite a, and the guy died 3 hours into it on a motorbike.
Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean, it was a really
I'm sorry to take his name in vain. There.
no, no, that's fine. I
But
actually, yeah, I
goodness.
didn't get around to answering the question about God. Um, yeah, I've learned that I'm claircognizant, right? Which means stuff sort of just gets put into your head. You don't hear voices, but you get stuff
Right.
in your head. So I kind of like in my previous career, I was well, I've had lots of them, but as a public speaker in the business world, I could talk for hours and hours. I kind of channeled it. I mean, just before COVID hit, I was the keynote speaker in front of 600 barristers in a colonial hotel on a beach in Mauritius, and I was like, "What am I doing here?" And I ended up doing comedy because the bloody the laptop wouldn't link to the projector, so I had to ad lib and got my mojo back just in time, just as they started scanning everybody's heads at the airports, and got back and was like, "Oh," and I could really feel it, and I knew about the New World Order. I knew what the plan was. Sorry, that's my daughter ringing. I'll just disengage. She wants to go and do something. Um, I knew it was coming. I knew all about the New World Order, and then Trump happened. You know, and that was very, very interesting because that was a spiritual experience for me. I remember listening to him because I thought he was just another playboy millionaire shithead like George Bush or something, but because I've not paid that much attention to him. But he was a kind of in our field of consciousness because I think that's why he did the whole TV series thing just to get more into people's consciousness because I think it's been a plan for a very long time, and I think he's part of that. I know he's part of that plan. And I was driving along listening to a podcast, listening to Donald Trump talk, and I was like, blah, blah, blah. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I could hear the code. He was talking in code. I had to pull the car over, and I was like, wait, oh, he's saying, oh, it was like that. It was just like, and I've just been fascinated by him ever since. And it's amazing how many people want him dead and hate him still. But, you know, as I said to my kids, if it wasn't for him and the people he's working with, billions of people would be dead already. And I realized this in 2020. I was like, I got told basically, you need to go on YouTube, start a channel, start talking because you know loads of stuff. And I was like, what, really? Do I? What am I going to talk about? And I just gave my son the phone one day and I said, point this at me. And he said, what? I don't know, just pointed at me and I started talking. And yeah, and then all these poems came out. They literally all came out at specific moments. And I made videos of them all. Some of the poems in that book have had millions of views, have been read all over the world. Even Ricardo Bosi read one out at one of his rallies for the Australia One Party, and it's been read out at Satanic Ritual Abuse. Some of those poems in their rallies and stuff like that. So I'm extremely proud of what's in there. And the only reason I did that book is because people kept saying, "Can you please make a book?" And I was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly, and I'm not putting it on Amazon. It's going to cost a lot of money to make and send out, but that's what I did. Because it's really for those people that just want a memento of the last few years, because it's just been the most insane, intense. So I started the YouTube channel that somebody cut the fuel line on my car. I had demonic attacks once so bad. There was a demon on my back. It was so heavy. I had to crawl up the stairs on my hands and knees. I had to learn how to get rid of demons.
So just explain that, because for those people who are perhaps think of these things more ethereally and or what's the word I'm looking for, where it not so much in the physical realm, or they see it more as a sci-fi movie or a horror movie. So what is that like? I mean, what's the experience of having a demon on your back actually like?
Well, it's like having a really heavy thing on your back that
so you can really feel. It's not like just
a
depression type thing. Oh, you feel a bit down. It's a real. You feel
no, it's a real creature. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm very multi-dimensional. I feel like I live in different dimensions all at the same time. We are all multi-dimensional beings, but we don't all realize it because 3D, which is where we are at the moment, is kind of like a point of attention. But our souls are huge. our oversouls are even bigger. And this is who we really are. So a big part of my journey has been to hold people's hand and say, look, firstly, we've all had to become, it's all about sovereignty, really.
Mm.
This whole thing is like, how do you become more sovereign about your health, your wealth, your happiness, your spirituality, everything? And,
Mm.
and there are many, many truths. I mean, I use the word God because I just want to reclaim that word. I mean, I know people say source and what Jehovah or whatever else, and I've got nothing against anybody saying anything like that. And I'm not religious, it's just I
Right.
hate.
So you don't sort of go to the Bible
No,
and
no,
all
no.
that.
The Bible's very, very interesting, but so are the 900 books that were taken out of it.
Right.
By the Council of Nicaea. The Book of Enoch, for example, talks about giants and kings living for 800 years and stuff. The stuff they don't want us to know because
Yes.
everything's a limited hangout. So so my show was originally called Adventures in a Meat Suit because it made me laugh when somebody said we're just ghosts in meat suits because we're spirits having a human experience, not humans having a spiritual experience. And
Mm.
that quickly evolved into Adventures in a Cosmic Suit because everything I started talking about just got more cosmic. It just sort of evolved from there. We are we are multidimensional beings. We've all chosen to be here at this time. We've all signed contracts basically to come here, and we've all got different roles, and nobody's above anybody else.
So
And
if we've all chosen to be here, because I know I've heard this, presumably people have chosen. Some people then who are in fear
yeah,
have chosen to be in fear, but not at the time when they're actually experiencing this.
yeah. I mean, it's a real head muncher to get your head round. I mean, I mean, I heard about 5D 10, 12 years ago, and I was like, what is that? What is 5D? Do we die? Do we go to space? Do we go to another planet?
Well, I see this. I keep hearing about the ascension, and I keep thinking, what does that actually mean? And everybody tells me it's something different. And in my head, it's like, does it mean we're all sort of ethereal and flying around, and we've lost our bodies, and everything is all a bit sort of magical power at the end of our fingers type stuff? And the other question I must ask is, what's happened to 4D then? Why is we going from 3 to 5? It's
Yeah,
like,
no,
what
no,
was
no,
wrong with 4?
that drove me mad for ages.
Right.
Yeah, well, 4D's like we're kind of in it. It's where the demons are showing their faces. Really, I mean, we're witnessing demons showing their. Chris Whitty is a demon. Tony
Right.
Blair is a demon.
Oh my, yeah. Well, I can. I think
you-
everybody sees that one.
Yes, you can just see it in their faces. I mean, and they're getting harder to. They can't hide it. And so it's actually quite interesting. But I did mention this to you before we came on air, and I said I wouldn't talk about it, so I'll just touch upon it lightly. But
Right.
if people are interested, go and look at John Dee. Look at John Dee's relationship with Queen Elizabeth I. Look at how John Dee signed his letters to Queen Elizabeth I, 007, Two-Ball Cain. That all links through, that lineage links through to people that are very famous. And I'm not going to say any more, but go and have a look.
That's
In
interesting.
fact,
I've got a book on him that I had on my shelf. Must be 12 years or something when I was doing history and stuff. Never read it. So I'm going to have to dig that out and see what it says. Maybe there's a message sent to me down the line.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. There's a lot of hidden stuff, and one of the things with John Dee is that he did a deal with fourth dimensional entities. This is where the fairies got banished to the fourth dimension, and I mean, this all sounds like an episode of Doctor Who. I know it, but it's this is the kind of stuff I've been learning, and it resonates because I astrally travel and I have visions as well. And
there's so much, Mark. There's so many things you just keep putting on the table.
No,
Okay, hang on a minute. I now want to park and find out about astral travel, but we'll come back and finish your story.
Let me just mess you up a bit more. This is the key to health. Ow, that hurts. Do that for 5 minutes on every part of your body, and you'll live for hundreds of years.
Is that why the flailers were doing their flailing in the old, the monks?
I don't know if I can't answer that with any accuracy.
So what are you saying? Bashing yourself?
Yeah, this is an ancient Chinese technique, and
that looks like an egg spatula.
It does, yeah. It's a little hand made by my friend.
Oh, it is a little hand.
Little hand.
And so what is that doing then? What is that doing to you?
It kind of really hurts. You do it for 5 minutes, and you start
on the same spot.
No, yeah. So you do 5 minutes here, and then you do 5 minutes here, and you do all the acupuncture points. But then anywhere there's an injury like that you've had.
Yeah.
The biggest I mean, we're going off on all sorts of tangents, but
You're telling me I can feel the audience going off. For goodness sake, Richard, keep him
yeah,
contained.
hold him down,
But
pin him
we'll have
down.
to do another. We'll have
Sorry
another
about this.
hour. No, no, don't
Well,
worry. I think
that's the problem living in my head. I mean, there's three tenets to really good health. One is structured water, which you already know about,
yeah.
with salt. You must have salt. Never drink water without salt.
I
Never
drink it with Celtic sea salt.
absolutely brilliant. You get loads of snot for months, but that's just your lungs clearing out. It's essential. Structured water, hydrogen, salt, and obviously get all the fluoride and all the bad stuff out of it before you do that.
What just on that, and I don't want to go down another rabbit hole. Distilled water. What's your take on distilled water?
Well, Harry Rhodes recommends using distilled water before you put it in the vortex machine, before you put it in the hydrogen machine. And I think that is a good thing if you've got the time to do it in the evenings and stuff.
Yeah.
I think also a good filter is like a Berkeley or we sell one that's like a plastic Berkeley, was like third of the price, but I'm telling water is so important. We are not drinking the right water, and we're 98% water, not 70%. We're 98, and Harry has been in my kitchen proving to my teenage kids that my blood's better than theirs because I drink the right water.
Yes.
And it's just anyway. That's one. Two is this: if you slap, the biggest problem we've got is we're breathing in particulates, nanoparticulates from the rubber on the tires of the cars to the stuff they've been spraying in the atmosphere, and it's just endless amounts of crap inside us, which we're poisoned from the before we're born, right?
So constantly trying to detox it.
Yeah, so this was discovered by a man who went around China with a backpack for 3 years, and then looking for things that are free to help people, against the medical system that is really a murder system. And I think he's in prison in Australia actually for lecturing about this slapping technique.
God,
I mean, it's just nuts. It's like they put Wilhelm Reich into.
So what is it doing?
Well, it's basically bringing to the surface everything that needs to come out. I mean,
I see.
My friend Gary had a really bad injury on his leg, and he did it, and all this blue crystal stuff came out. It was horrific, but it's out of his body now.
Yeah.
And then you get this clear vessel, and when you've got this clear vessel and you're putting good water in, and the third stool of good health, or the third leg of the stool, is raw local honey. Who knew?
Well,
yeah.
People have been saying that for a long time, haven't they?
Well, my nan always had honey. It's like I grew up on it.
Well, do you know, the lovely Julia will be so thrilled because she loves honey and she has it in her tea because she has a sweet tooth and she was trying to get off the evil white stuff.
Yeah.
And
what, cocaine?
Funny enough, ordinary sugar. Just to clarify,
just for
all the viewers who think that we're all a bit mad. And so, but then Dr. Sarah Myhill, who's, by the way, coming back on the channel, she's coming in a week or so, and she'll be back in the kitchen to give us more of her wisdom. She said that honey was bad from a keto diet point of view, from that biological. So one of the problems is that, one health, freedom, sovereign talker will say such and such, and another one will go, that's a load of rubbish, what you need is this. And you go, I don't know. So it still comes back to a little bit of moderation of all of those things, but certainly not the crap that you buy in the supermarkets.
Well, that's what it boils down to. Just if it's in the supermarket, it's no good for you. If the government recommends it, do the opposite.
Do the opposite.
I mean, this is one of the most controversial thing I ever said on my channel was go carnivore. Everybody went mental at me. You can't say that. You're not going to ascend if you eat a sentient being. Well, all I can tell you is that everybody that I know, we got 800 people to go carnivore about 18 months ago, and the amount of people that come up to me in America and all over the place going, this is my new carnivore body, thank you, you've cured my arthritis, you've cured my carpal tunnel syndrome, I'm lean and mean, and it's like, wow. But once I said out loud that veganism, and don't freak out vegans at what I'm about to say, veganism is a satanic agenda, not vegans, right? Because the government are pushing it. It's the same as the 5 a day. They're telling you to eat vegetables. No, thank you. I'm not doing anything they tell me to do ever again.
So are you saying that vegetables are not in and of themselves useful or healthy?
They don't want to be eaten. They're full of toxins. Oxalates. Just look up oxalates. They can't run away, so they've got inbuilt toxins. I mean, I think of vegetables and plants as medicine. now, and I've hardly eaten a vegetable in 18 months, and I've never felt better generally. I know I was ill the other week, but that was an emotional release. Never
So
felt,
just say that again, because I didn't quite get that. You see vegetables and plants and stuff as medicine,
yeah.
so you only need it when you need it, but you wouldn't eat it as a part of the diet.
No, I've got rid of it completely. I just eat meat, eggs, fish, and butter.
Wow, and
And
not milk then.
I do partake in creamy milk. But it's not a dogma. I'm not the big, like you said. They say everybody's got a different viewpoint, and I'm live and let live totally. But I'm an explorer, so I've explored these ideas on my channel. That's why it's called Adventures in the Cosmic Suit. I'm not afraid to go and be carnivore for 3 months to see what happens.
Right.
And when I did it, the results were incredible. So I stayed on it. That's it. And I just share that with people, and whether they take it or leave it, it's up to them. I'm not pushing any dogma on anybody about anything. What I'm trying
So
to
what
do,
would be what would be the Mark Atwood's general go-to meal in an average day?
steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs,
Hmm, yeah.
and just just one meal a day type thing.
Well, it has come down to that. I mean, I don't eat before 1 o'clock as a general rule. Maybe once a week I might have a breakfast, but I just don't feel hungry. And then if I'm working, I will forget to eat until about 3 o'clock. I go, oh, I need to eat something, and I'll just get a steak. 5 minutes later, I'm done. And
And
maybe later I'll have a tin of mackerel or something, but or some eggs.
and is all this locally sustainable, organic and healthy
As
meat?
much as possible. But
Yeah.
again, you've got to be practical. I'm very pragmatic. You know,
Right.
I mean, the other thing that happened to me in 2021 was I got told to make a course on digital marketing. I was like, what, in the middle of a pandemic? Why would anybody want to know? Because that's what I did for a living before. And anyway, I got nagged and nagged and nagged, and I eventually did it. And we had like 700 people on this course. And I called it How to Monetize What's Already in Your Head, Create a New Income Stream, and Become Sovereign Quickly. And I was reticently doing it, but I was teaching people how to write a book quickly, how to, because I know how to do that, and how to monetize that, and how to use keywords and all this. And it was only in the second week that I realized, it was not about the money. It was just about helping people find their voice. Because the more of us that know what's going on, that can speak out, the better. And is there a way of trying to show people how to stop suckling on the nipple of the state? Because that is the biggest problem that we have in the world right now.
It's interesting you say that because I felt that it's been when I've been out doing talks and people say, can you tell us something, a solution of something, and I think, well, there's so many wonderful people doing most of the solutions, and I'm not qualified. The only real thing I suppose I'm qualified is to say set up a channel and talk, even
Yeah.
if you've got 10 viewers, talk common sense, what's on your mind, and your worries or whatever it is or what you think, because in a way, to me, it's like bombard the algorithm with positive
Yeah.
thoughts, get more and more people aware, even if these channels are being shut down, that another one pops up. So it's like whack-a-mole,
Yeah.
and that everyone's going, do you know, is this right? A, is this right to treat us like this? And B, this is what I really want, and this is what I feel.
Yeah. And start the conversation, because and
Exactly.
stop being afraid. That's the biggest fear is their number one weapon. And it's not just to control us, but they feed off it. The fourth dimensional entities feed off fear. It's called loosh, but they also feed off the blood. And that's what this is about, really. It's all about blood. Everything. It's all connected to blood. I mean, from the royal family all the way down to what you just said about that and transfusion, things like that. It's you know, it's crackers. So we have to take care of we have to become, even if people watching this disagree with everything I've just said, at least look into it, at least do something to become more independent in your thinking about how the world should be. Because the world communism doesn't work. It's never worked. It always leads to mass deaths. I mean, people just don't understand. In communist China, people are eating their own children. That's how they were starved to death. And the same things that were going on in Russia. We just don't know the truth about this kind of thing. And that's what they're trying to impose. This communism doesn't work. What does work is sovereign nations and sovereign individuals. You can't have a sovereign nation without sovereign individuals, people that take care of each other, but take care of themselves as well and know how to take care. Because we've become ridiculously soft,
Yes.
as a species. I was just, when I was thinking the other day, I used to go and watch my dad train for football, and then looking at the men in the changing rooms when I was like 7 years old, and they were all big, hairy, strong men. Now they're all man bags on electric scooters, with, you know. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way because it's not their fault. I think it's been
No, we've been groomed, haven't we?
we've been
And
chemically.
convenience has
Yes.
been the such a huge weapon. I think the convenience of everything, so you no longer have to make the effort yourself. And I was aware of, I mean, I wasn't really aware of bad things necessarily, but I was aware that when this thing came in, the television controller, because it was my job as a nipper to get up and
Yeah.
turn the
Same here.
UHF to VHF and find
yeah.
the next channel so Dad could watch what he wanted on a black and white television.
Yeah, yeah.
And then because when they came in, I thought, oh, this is that's so lazy, because
I know.
otherwise you'll never get up off the sofa.
My
And
mum,
of course,
my mum barred me from using it.
did she?
Yeah, she says too
And
lazy.
then, you'd lose the bloody thing, and then you'd get the job anyway. Go and turn the telly over, and all of that. That is assuming the aerial. It's all those days when the aerial was not getting. It was a fuzzy picture.
And in my house, there was a 50p in the slot at the back of it because we rented it and used the cash slot machine.
That's very interesting because we used to rent from Rumbelow. When I got married, we had a television that we rented. And you say that to children now, they're like, "What are you talking about?
No,
You're crackers."
Yeah.
But that convenient, and we saw that, of course, over the top during the lockdown, in which people couldn't even be bothered to make a cup of coffee. They would have one biked to the house.
Really?
Well, this is what people were telling me.
Wow.
That they were having, these people were out and they would have it biked to the house. If they were sharing and they couldn't go in the kitchen and things like this because another partner was in the house and apparently was isolating and all of this. I just thought this is and of course people didn't want to go to the supermarkets to buy stuff because they feared, there'll be other people in the supermarket. And the most bizarre part was but I would go to the supermarket, not that I do now. I don't go to supermarkets. I only go to farm shops and it's small independent companies. I made that as this is my new mission. But I would go there and people would say, it's very dangerous going in there. And you think, well, that's the same person sitting behind the till all the way through, and they've seen millions of people come and go, and they're still okay. I thought, hang on a minute, why is the staff not changing around rather a lot if there's
something
worrisome, a bit bothersome in the air that we're all supposed?
Well, I mean, going to a restaurant. I couldn't believe it. It's like, you want me to wear a mask to go from here to there, and I've got to take it off. And I was like, are you insane? And
it was the one. If you sat down, it was that thing about if you sat down, you could take it off. If you went to the bar, you had to put it on because you stood up. So presumably, people with dwarfism, they were fine. Small people could walk across there because the intelligent thing would not attack them because it would go, oh no, you're that level. We don't go down to that level near tables.
I know, it's a very, very clever virus.
And yet people bought into it.
I know. I couldn't believe it. It was like when I started talking online, I thought, am I the only one? It was just nuts. I was like, how can they not see it? I mean, it's been like living through. Do you remember that Donald Sutherland film with the Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Oh yes.
He goes like that at the end. Yeah.
Do that again. That might be the thumbnail.
That freaked me out in the 70s, but
yeah,
it was like that. It was like that, and I was like, I can't believe that this is happening, but I kind of knew it was going to happen, and I tried to make fun of, I tried to make light of it and cheer people up because we use the internet in various brilliant ways over the last few years.
You've brought me now. I'm just trying to find. There's one particular.
There's a poem.
No, well, I'm not going to read it out. It's
too many swear words.
Because, it's one swear word.
Oh, that one.
And you'll know what it is.
Yes.
But it just takes me going all the way through that period. There is but one word, and I might show one on the screen, and people can
Well, people can find the video on BitChute, Rumble, the Mark Attwood.
Oh right, okay. So there is. You basically say there's one word for a number of the players that we'd all recognise.
You've got to read it in a kind of Peter Cook, Dudley Moore style. It's like there are many things you could say about this pandemic, the attempted mass murder of the human race. There is one word that sums them up perfectly, and it's got to be done like that, really.
And
I'm not going to say it out loud.
No. You go through it, so the people, but it is you go through each one, and some are smug ones or muck ones like that, dead ones, Castro ones, man ones, which did make me laugh because my daughter was in New Zealand at the time,
right,
and was forced to have the bloody thing.
Oh,
and so that did make me laugh, and I saw the video of that particular person walking along.
What a horror show!
Absolute horror show. I'm going to get you to send me the link so people can buy the book. But we've got 10 more minutes in my little hour's slot, if that's okay, to wax lyrical.
It is.
What should we now be thinking about in these months coming? We are sort of, the messages are coming out that there's potentially another closed door event. In which we've got to sort of shiver, and particularly as it goes into the winter, that we've got to worry about, and it does seem the younger members of society are going to be the targets. Am I sort of in the right place there, do you think?
Well, it looks like that, and I'm like I said, I'm an apocalyptimist, and people, when it looks terrifying, it is, people are dying, people do die, it's awful, but everybody contracted to do what they're doing, and it's kind of like we created this game for ourselves because we're all fractals of God, and you are the only thing in existence, and once you understand that, then you realize you're creating everything, and so am I, and and once you, I know it's a head melter, but once you get
but if I absolutely get that. I on my journey now, I've reading and watching and stuff. I get that we're all one and the same in a way, and I've just recently read The Power of Now, which is a great.
No, you have to do it like The Power of Now.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Because I listened to the audiobook in the car.
Oh, I did.
I nearly fell asleep on the motorway so many times.
Yeah, the moment is now. Forgetting about all the traffic, getting behind your thoughts.
The power of a really slow German voice.
So I read that, and that's had an interesting impact on me, and on how we're all of this, and I now have lost my point really.
Sorry.
No, and of course at the beginning of this bit I said, oh, what should we worry about? And of course you cleared that up by saying, actually, we should be more positive because we've all chosen to be here. And the question, I suppose, is, if we are all creating all of this, then why have we created this?
Well, it's I don't have all the answers, Richard.
Well, that was Mark Attwood, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. We'll find another expert who knows all.
That's a good thing. It's an honest thing, because
if
we knew everything, what would be the point of this?
Yes.
For me, I'm kind of an Aries warrior sort of spirit, so I'm like aggressive, as you can tell by some of the poems, against the reptilians and the interdimensional baddies and all of this. And I kind of view things in that kind of warlike way, because I've had a lot of past life regressions, and I feel like I know from my past life regressions that I've been at this for a very, very, very long time. My earliest life is fucking billions of years ago, and it's crackers.
So if we win all, God wins. Okay, so there he is. He wins.
Sounds like a furniture retailer, doesn't it? Welcome to God Wins.
God wins, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just a bit of French polish on this, and it'll be lovely.
Sensational settee.
But if God does win, then are we not in that situation where it is all boring?
Well, that's what my daughter says. Because when I talked to her about Ascension, she goes, "Well, who's going to clean the toilets? It sounds really boring." And I'm like, "Well, you've got a point there." But But I don't know. My vision is the vision I've had is just is so it's we can hardly conceive of how amazing it's going to be. That's the thing. It's difficult. It's very difficult. It's like
That's the salesman telling you, isn't it? This car is going to be
yeah,
amazing when
yeah,
you bought it. Absolutely fantastic. The clutch is a bit slow,
yeah,
but
yeah.
the
Don't worry about
steering's a bit off, but don't worry about it.
when I started my channel, I was putting up. There's a fantastic claymation version of Plato's allegory of the cave, and and I would urge everybody to go and watch it because it's really, really good. And it's just that the prisoners inside the cave just could not conceive of what he was talking about outside of the cave, and that's what it's like. I mean, when I started the channel, it was like people shouting at me across the street and stuff, and then as time went by, people would sneak up to me going, "Keep up the good work," and then they'd run off the other direction, and I'd be like, "Okay, right, it's not all bad." Um, so yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I do know that I just know it's going to be very, very good.
There you are. Mark Attwood says it's going to be very, very good. His book is God Wins, Spiritual War Poetry 2020 to 2022. No doubt there'll be a 23 to 24 version, I should think.
Maybe
at
I'm,
the
I'm
end.
working on one at the moment.
Are you?
I've got a Substack called Diary of a Conspiracy Theorist, which I'm looking at all the points in my life where I had massive jump forward in terms of understanding what was going on, and I'm trying to make that amusing as well as interesting. But I'm also writing a book of poetry which is based upon gematria and sacred geometry, because I'm fascinated by how cymatica works and how we create with the sacred geometry and things like the fact that the angle on all the pyramids is 42 degrees, and why is that? What does that pull in with the ether and creation itself?
And that's really bizarre, isn't it? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yes,
Douglas Adams.
yes, he knew.
He knew
He knew.
the
It's like
answer to
loads of
life.
people knew, but they didn't
Yeah.
tell us. Yeah, it's all. It's
Well,
all
maybe they were trying to.
well, there was the mystery schools are very, very interesting, and the hidden knowledge. I'm fascinated by all of that stuff, and it's a lovely journey actually. If you start looking at it like that, and I started reading books like Island Land of the Pharaohs is mind blowing. And it talks about layers of black magic, talks about island being Atlantis, and all sorts of stuff like that. But all the books prove that the spiritual significance of this land and the UK is unreal. Look at all the sacred sites. So we've been going around unblocking sacred sites. We did an amazing one in Derbyshire. This
How do you
harbour.
unblock? It sounds like going there with Dynarod. How do you
Well,
unblock?
yeah, I did have a dino rod in the back of the car. No, we went. I met this amazing woman called Gillian England up in Derbyshire. She said, "Do you want to come and see this stone circle?" I went, "Yeah, okay." So we took a film crew. We made a film, and when we got to the stone circle, which is extremely low key, it's not like Stonehenge. It's like four cars can park there, and you walk up a hill, and it's the intersection of nine ley lines are below. And I was like, this. And as soon as I got there, I was like, what I got told in my head was this is the most powerful stone circle in the world. Well, and then I got told, run over there. So I ran over the outside of the circle and I found these concrete blocks and they had VR on, which is Victoria Regina. And I immediately knew, they've been blocking these lines, this power of this circle. This must be on one of the ley lines. Let's go around. And we found 8 others with VR on that were blocking the ley lines because they understand the energy of the grid of the land and everything else.
Right.
And so what we did is just energetically cleared them. Then we found a tent which had GR, which is George Rex, and that one was heavily demonic. This stone. They see if you speak to our Harry Rhodes as well, he'll tell you the ether hates corners, squares, right? Hates them. But the bad guys love them because they can hide in the corners. And this GR one, we cleared that one. And as soon as we cleared it, it was a really overcast sky in Derbyshire, very, very cold in January. As soon as we cleared that 10th one, boom, the sun came out of nowhere. And I was watching it and I was like, whoa, the sun just completely changed. It had a black outline and there's a light going around it like this. It was all like plasma on the inside of it. And then suddenly there's 2 women walking a dog came and joined in. The cameraman joined in. Gillian joined in. And then we all saw it change and then start emitting all these different colors. And I was like, this is the. And I see UFOs. I can call in the ships. I see dragons made of light, elementals, visions of minotaurs. Crazy stuff. But the thing is, I'm not the only one.
No.
And because I'm not the only one, I'm not afraid of saying it. And it gives other people courage to talk about these things because they're real. And that's why I know this is kind of a fiction that we're in right now. It's a prison planet that we live on. And obviously, I mean, why do we pay taxes to the same people that print the money? They don't need our money. It's
Well,
just
print
part
it.
of
Yeah, they could print it themselves, couldn't
exactly.
they?
It's just all
If
part of the
if
whole,
it was worth anything.
go and look at the fractional reserve banking system. Sign up to my email list. The first thing I send you is G. Edward Griffin's Creature from Jekyll Island. I studied economics for 5 years. Nobody mentioned it to me, which I'm pretty cross about. I did. They did make me study bloody Karl Marx, Das Kapital, for mathematically breaking that bullshit down. I mean, he was a satanic poet, sponsored by the Rothschilds. I mean, it's endless. But that's part of the fun. If you can flip yourself from being terrified of what's coming to going, actually, I'm the creator. I'm not going to be terrified. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to stand up. I just did a video recently saying the next wave of COVID is a massive opportunity for everybody that fell for it last time to not fall for it this time.
Yes.
And not comply and stand up and not be afraid. We are many, they are few. There's nothing they can do. And once you start understanding, how law really works, maritime versus natural law, how food really works, what actually is poisonous, and and what an amazing time. And I mean, when I toured America last year, my film about that is coming out next week as well, which is like a 2-hour documentary of an Englishman touring around. We did 18 shows in 1 month in 30 days. It was amazing. I was the only Englishman that did the tour, and one of 3 people that was on at every single event. It was exhausting, but it's the film. I watched the final cut last night. It's actually pretty good fun, because I wanted to make something that was the behind the scenes and sort of amusing rather than look, here's more child trafficking. Because lots of people have done a really good job on that already. Go and watch Sound of Freedom. If you're watching this, go and watch Cages by Lewis Herms. That's a really good film documentary about the size of the child trafficking problem that we have, because it's all about the children. If we're not gonna stand up this time, it is about the children, and they are coming for the children. You can see it. You can see all the LGBT stuff. You can see all the number of these that they stick into the kids before they can do anything. Most people watching this channel probably already know by now that the birth certificate is just a great big con, turns you into a corporation, and it's bond, and they trade it, and when they give you a mortgage, they're actually giving you your own money. It's just nuts, this world, this prison that we're in. But we've got a massive opportunity, because what has COVID done? It's shown us for everybody who they truly are. And we've never had that, and it's amazing. Some of our own family members, we've all lost people, and we've all fallen out with people because of it, because we now know who they are, and we know who the people are with courage and with determination and with grit and with character. And that's amazing to find that out. And also the ones who are demonic, horrible, weak, nasty pieces of shite, we know who they are as well, which is lovely.
Mark, I've enjoyed this conversation. We could clearly talk longer, but I was going to say, will you come back?
Oh, 100%. I love talking to you.
Assuming the channel is still there.
Yeah,
it will be.
Yeah,
it will be. It will be. Positive vibes
positive.
From Vobes. Brilliant stuff. Where can we find more about you? If people haven't already worked out and done Google searches for you, where can we find out more?
Probably not there. The Mark Attwood, ATTWoodshow.com is where all of my videos are archived. I don't know how many I did so far, 700 or something.
I will put the link in the description.
All the poetry videos are there.
And
Telegram.
I'm going to get the link so people can get your book.
It's on that website. It's the only.
It's on the website. There we go.
You can get it. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
And it's not cheap, and I don't apologise for that, because I made it for people that wanted a proper keepsake that would last a long time, and it's not cheap to print, even more expensive to post.
It is beautiful. I mean, it starts with this gold inleaf, for goodness sake.
Yeah, well, no expense spared. I wanted people to take care of it,
and that's real gold, ladies and gentlemen. It's.
Well, what I've been saying about this book is, if I'm right, it's a collector's item and it's an investment. If I'm wrong, it's very expensive toilet paper. I'm sorry.
Mark Attwood, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope the ladies and gentlemen who are watching have enjoyed it. I'm sure they are. We'll get you back. It'll be absolutely fantastic. In the meantime, go and check out Mark Attwood's stuff. Links in the description. And I'll be back with more of the usual stuff. But meantime, just for me to say, thank you very much for watching from Mark and I. Thank you and Goodbye.